What's going on, everyone? We are back again for another exit interview for episode number 2, Chaos Season 1 mini Yasawa Islands. We have myself, Lauren Pratt, my co-host, McKenna Feeney, and the great Robbie Silliker with us to break down this episode and then also do the in-depth interview with the eliminated Castaway.
Yeah, I think this is another great episode. Edit-wise, it was beautiful, and it was funny because it starts off right away with Austin giving his, everything's great, and it's funny to see the reaction from the people who win the first challenge, and it shows the advantage that you get when you win, early challenges in these games, because everybody gets to go back and it's all rainbows and butterflies and everybody loves each other and kumbaya, and you don't actually have to strategize much apart from I'll work with everybody and we're all friends.
Yep.
And you haven't had to cut anybody's throat yet. So it was great in this episode to see it start with that kind of I don't know, like almost like a naive joy of like life is wonderful.
Austin always, you'll see whenever he's on screen, it's just he gives amazing confessionals, and it's always something great to cut into, where because he's just such a fresh face in the orgs, because he hasn't done anything like this. He's kind of new to Survivor as well. So Ian just asked his brother, was like, hey, play in this org, and he was like, all right, I guess I'll try it.
Wow. And it's funny because I think he's playing one of the best games right now. He's, he mentions right off the bat that he's working with Nick and Jeremy. And, as you see through the episode, some people start talking about who they're working with. And I think Austin's got, a pretty solid grasp on where he stands in the game right now, but he's also not crazy outspoken when everybody's together. He gets in the confessionals, he says what he's thinking, and he's got a strategy. He clearly knows what he's wanting to do, but he doesn't kind of shout it out to the world and give everything away. So, he's playing a solid game. I didn't know that was one of his first.
Yep. Yeah, one of his first, and he's just popping in the confessional, and that's exactly why he's leading off the second episode. Just he's so good at them. And yeah. I was stunned to see it when I'm going in looking at how people are delivering in their confessionals. I see Austin. I said, this is great content.
Alex just gave him one leading question of like, you just won, how do you feel, and then he just
then he goes off
confessional. Yep. And it's amazing.
Yeah, and then we go right from that to Jeremy, and I've never played with Jeremy yet, I guess I should say. You never know. But I didn't realize how deliberate that guy is. He has a very we talked about how Austin knows kind of where he stands. Not just that with Jeremy, but he also understands the perception that he's giving off, and he understands how aggressive he's being and how he took charge and it paid off. He knows how his decisions worked in the first challenge. He feels confident about that. And I'm curious to see how cognizant he is of, building a target versus showing that he has utility. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think, we'll see throughout the episode that he's incredibly gifted at this as well.
Coming from someone who's kind of sort of played with Jeremy, since we were both specialists, we had like so much time to pregame and everything for that game, and he was in my pre-established alliance of 6, and he was just always kind of quiet, but he wanted to cut me so fast and I had no idea. Like, he was ready to have me go as soon as possible.
But face to face, you couldn't tell.
Yeah, I would never be able to tell. Would like work with him as far as possible. Like, thank God he was not on my starting tribe, because I would have been first boot,
Yeah. Wow. Well, and just to keep going with the episode, we roll right from that to, the prep, I guess you could say, right? For the first challenge. I don't know how much prep there actually was, but there was a lot of gameplay going on, which is really interesting. Nick, once again, jumps in right off the bat, takes charge. Does anybody want to sit out? Does anybody want to play? Just give me all of your information and your intent in this game so I can use it against you. It's pretty much what he's saying. And like clockwork, Corey takes the bait right away and just jumps in. I want to play and I want to do the hardest one. The reason why I say it's the hardest is because throwing cards is it's not random, but it's like trying to bounce a ping pong ball off 3 things and get it in a cup. Like, I'm sure if you try enough, you can do it. But if you've never done that, like,
he played it well. He was so
He's done
confident
it.
because he played it in his season, but we did it in such a different way in season 2, we did it round by round, where it's like you throw
Okay.
your cards and then you're good, and then you wait until everybody has thrown all of their cards, and then it was first to finish.
Yeah.
It was just throw, collect, throw, collect, throw, collect.
There's no pause, so you don't ever get a break in this sense. You have to just keep continuing to go. Whereas as McKenna's saying, in the other game that we did, you had a break where you could just, kind of think about how you want to strategize and everything. And in this one, just the pressure gets to you, and you see it too, because the other tribe's already done and he's still going.
But, that being said, it's not a bad strategy if you're going to show that you're confident to take the middle task. Because, like, yeah, he stepped up. He says, I'm game. I want to take one for the team, however you want to call it. But don't let me be the one at the beginning, and don't let me be the one at the end. So it's great, because if that would have worked, then he gives himself the opportunity for someone else on his tribe to do horrible in the first section and be a huge
Jeremy
target.
Be a little slow with the pencils there.
Right, exactly. And then you also give someone a chance at the end to do horrible on the puzzle, and you're kind of just wedged in the middle. As long as you just complete it. That's really
the issue, though, is
right.
the completion.
That's all that really matters. And you
never got
Jeremy.
to the puzzle. And the issue with Corey there is, because he came across that he was so confident that he was going to be able to perform well, and then he basically shit the bed. Then everyone else
put lightly.
I mean, I'm being completely honest.
She didn't roast him enough in tribal council, so I feel like she needed to get some of her excess roast of Corey into this exit interview.
I would like to see the times though.
We fast forwarded.
I know, I saw that, but you fast forwarded, you didn't cut, so it's kind of like, at least you get to see a little, you almost get a feel how long it took, right? Because you got to actually see it in not real time, but you got to see the footage.
Yeah. So we didn't cut out where he was basically doing awful. We fast forwarded, so you knew it was taking a significant amount of time.
Yeah. And I would like to almost have seen the clock, because Nick and Corey at one point, Corey kind of had a rough time at the last couple cups, but Nick at one point and Corey almost caught up to Ryan. And I think it was David, right, was doing the other ones, and I think he did fine. But they almost caught up to, and if you look at it, if Corey hadn't had such a difficult time in the last couple cups, then Ryan would have looked horrible, because how did they catch up after Jeremy's kind of flub on the pencils? To be honest, that's pretty bad.
What we told them with that challenge is you could use water. You can use water with the pencils. So we saw Karen have water in her cup because
Ryan did too, I think.
Ryan had water in his cups for his cards. He was playing on carpet, so that was a smart idea to put water in the cups to weight it down. Because we were playing with solo cups, they don't have any weight to them with the pencils, so you either got to hold the cup or use some water. Typically that challenge is with a glass.
Yeah, makes sense. And speaking of Jeremy, once again in the prep, and you see he takes the position, he volunteers the opposite of what Corey did. Corey took the safer position in the middle, and once again Jeremy takes the give me the attention spot. He was the caller in the first one and didn't mind, and in this one he says give me the first or the last, which is it's kind of like the two most obvious parts of it, and it almost bit him in the butt, because he did not do very well in the pencil, what do you call it, hop into the cup.
There was one main reason I really needed to show you guys in the edit the strategy and their breakout room for planning that challenge. And that was, who do we pick to sit out? Let's go to a wheel. Robbie, your thoughts?
I think that's garbage. I think.
Thank you.
It's hard, because here's the thing. If it's easy to say that once again, sitting back here. Easy peasy, but once you have some people step up and say, I want to do this. Corey said it, right? Nick said it. And even Jeremy at one point, said, I would do those, but I'm okay with but he at least mentioned what parts he wanted to do. You already have people stepping up. So anybody who pushes to sit out, you're just showing like weakness or insecurity or whatever you want to call it, where you're not looking very confident right now. But on the other hand, if nobody said anything, then yeah, I would have done the same. Like if nobody said, I want to do a part, and everyone just sat there silently, then it's the opposite. I wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm a squeaky wheel. I want to like put like Corey was like the squeaky wheel a little bit, right? He stood out. He really stood out there, which is not always, it's a double-edged knife, I guess, sword, whatever you want to call it. But, I felt like Dan really wanted to sit out. And
no, he actually did want to be on the puzzle portion because he wanted to be able to prove himself. I will say McKenna did me dirty because she did not tell me that tribe went to a wheel. So then I go into tribal council and I'm pissed off because that's the first time I'm hearing about it.
Listen, it was a long game, all right? A lot of things were going on. I was in breakout rooms.
Yeah.
It was a lot, Lauren.
Excuses. So no, but something else that I noticed was, does Corey have square bottom solo cups? Because I think in the flip cup in the first challenge, his cups have like corners, which is weird for a round cup, but I think the bottom of the cup has corners, and I wonder if that played a role in just not being as stable as the round cups when it comes to the cards, because everybody else's cups seem to be all right. But
yeah,
I didn't notice.
I'll have to take another look at the tape. I just thought of that as we were sitting here.
If he still has stuff left over from season 2, then it should be the same round solo cups that I have, because I still have my season 2 stuff.
I could be wrong. It happens every once in a year.
Yeah.
Why did he not use water though? That was my main thing, because I even was saying, why didn't you use a different strategy?
He did use a different strategy of throwing them against his couch and trying to use it as a backboard.
It's something, listen, the guy, we watch a half-hour episode, but the guy had like 3 minutes to think about it, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give him a little bit of slack there. But the other thing is too, is the first thing I would be thinking of is I don't want to get water on my cards. I want to be able to throw the cards and I want them to be dry. And if you get 2 or 3 cards in the same cup, don't you have to take them out?
Right? Yeah, and then only one card counts as
right. So now he's going to have wet cards that he's got to start throwing. So I can't discount. Like there's strategy on both. I would have put a little bit of water in probably and just hope not to get my cards wet or wipe them on the carpet.
Have a towel next to you. I mean, there's so many different variations here.
Sure. Hindsight's 20/20. As much as we hate to say that kind of phrase now. But yeah, so I don't know. I think the challenge looked bad on Corey. I think it looked worse on Jeremy. I think it looked a lot worse on Jeremy. When you watch it, like I think Phill actually hit
1, 2, 3 roughly.
He hit 1, 2, 3. The third one bounced out, and then he goes like expletive, and then bounces it back in. And then when Karen finally gets to go after Jeremy's done, she goes like 1, 2, and then a couple more bounces, 3, done.
Yeah.
Right. But Jeremy kind of got to hide because Corey at Tribal was like, "Yeah, it's all my fault," which it looked bad, but I think they both did really, really horribly.
Yeah, Jeremy's performance was not great.
No.
But Corey's was just awful that Jeremy could just stay in the background.
Yeah, the fact
brought up as being terrible.
They didn't get to the puzzle because Corey couldn't finish the cards. I think that was really the bigger reason than Jeremy.
Sure. The time difference in Jeremy finishing his pencils to the time difference between Nick and Corey, I'm assuming was much larger.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that gap. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see what you're saying, because by the time Jeremy was done, the other tribe had both their people done and a bunch of cups, and they had already re-racked.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll
like Jeremy was still going.
Yeah. We'll be talking to Dan in a little bit, but we can see how he thinks he would have done on that word puzzle, because I don't know how much of a puzzle smith that he is. So if he's good at word puzzles and is able to rearrange the letters, and then Jeremy's pencils wouldn't have meant anything, and they could have still come back from that. So we'll get to talk and see about that. But I mean, that pretty much wraps up the challenge. Toa loses. Toa's going to Tribal, and they have to strategize now.
Yeah, and that was a dog's breakfast. That was bad. That was really bad. I don't know if you want to bring Dan in now, or if we should. I gotta get something off my chest. There's there's a moment in the show, and I actually wrote the quote down over here. Nick is sitting with Karen, and it's just them and moderators or whatever. And Nick tells Karen, is Dan the easy first vote, which is what you want to hear, if it's not your name. Is Dan the easy first vote? Someone brought that up when you and Dan weren't in the room. Okay, so when you and Dan weren't in the room means that the other 4 people were there. So there's some sort of alliance going on with the other 4 people that they excluded you.
Well, what
And
happened?
but get this, he finishes the sentence. I know there's confessionals and meeting rooms and stuff, but he finishes the sentence with, he said, sorry, someone brought that up when you and Dan weren't in the room, and Corey was like, well, Karen's amazing. So he starts the sentence off by saying, we were talking about Dan, but really what must have been happening was they said, who are we voting out, Dan or Karen? And Corey stood up for Karen and said, well, Karen's amazing, let's go Dan. So right when Karen heard that, you should think, okay, they were just debating between the 2 of us, which means I'm obviously not in with them, which means Dan and I better work together or I'm out next. Do you know what I mean? Like right there, boom, that should have triggered something. And you combine that with Austin telling Corey how much he likes Karen and how he doesn't want her to go because of, she gets a raw deal on a couple of these. And it just, anyways, I couldn't believe that right there, the traction of Corey hearing that from Austin, Karen hearing that really she's a target with Dan and she's in self-preservation mode. But to what end, right? Like, are you hoping for a swap at 10 or which might happen? Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyways, that blew my mind that Nick would be that sloppy to say, we were actually debating between you and Dan. Corey said, not you. So we're thinking Dan.
But Karen didn't catch on to it though.
No, maybe she did. And she just didn't let it on, but
I do have to say it is Nick's first org. So he hasn't played anything like this. He hasn't done that kind of strategy really. So he doesn't know what he can give, what he can, what can be said.
But do you blame Karen for not catching on to it though too? Because
100%. Yeah, 100%.
She didn't mention it in a confessional saying, I was just talking with Nick and I'm puzzled. She didn't seem alarmed at all.
Yeah, the fact Nick mentioned that someone had to defend her right away, I was like, whoa, that light must be going off right there. But the thing is right now she's just hearing it's Dan, which is fair, right? You're in the heat of the moment. You hear, we want to vote Dan and not you. Thanks. But I'll be thinking like, why was my name mentioned if you want to work with me?
Yeah.
Right? Like, shouldn't we just be saying Dan and let's win the next challenge?
Yeah.
But man, oh man.
There's one production tidbit for all of you, and something I think you would love, Robbie, is about this challenge with the word puzzle. So I guess something slipped through with production where the word puzzle didn't work. So right before the challenge, we thought we had it good, and then we realized, oh crap, this doesn't work. And so then we thought we had it good, that we reorganized it. So we started the challenge up and then realized mid-challenge that it still didn't work. So
all this time, Corey was trying to catch up and the puzzle wasn't working. Wow.
Yeah. So we were like, thank God Jeremy and Corey are blowing this. And like things are taking longer because Annabelle and Ian were like frantically trying to figure out this puzzle, and then Ian had a backup just in case a reward with all the fixins didn't.
Good guy Ian right there.
Yeah.
Well prepared.
Didn't work, but Annabelle and Ian did make it work, and so we sent it out because it would have looked also bad on Ian too, because he was the one who sent Annie the direct message of the puzzle, and we were having our production was.
So how did you know it didn't work? Did Annie pretty much say like, guys, this is not like?
I had no idea.
There were like extra letters or something. Again, that was bad on me because I made it originally. And it slipped through somehow in our production planning and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden we were looking at the puzzle and we're like, there are extra letters here.
See, I'm glad you were able to do that because I was too busy commentating the challenge. So I had no idea that happened. I found out about the puzzle glitch after the challenge was over. And I said, well, thank God it worked out.
Yeah, but you know what, guys? Like this really, it's funny and all that good stuff, but it really speaks to being well organized in a weird way. Like you being disorganized in your prep for that one challenge was solved relatively simply by the fact you had a team of people there that
Yes.
were ready to help, right?
Like,
So
we couldn't have done this without our team. Like, thanks to everyone on production.
They're
because,
Yeah.
fantastic.
that must have been pretty nerve-wracking though. Like, oh crap, what do we do? Do we pause the game? Like what? Like what?
Yeah.
Man.
All
No.
right. I think it's time to bring Dan in, and Robbie and our Facebook group can ask him some questions.
Oh, yes, we have questions. Bring them on in. Come on, Dan. I know he has a lot to say.
Yes, and he can explain his entire game. And thank you for coming in, Dan.
Dan,
Yeah, no problem.
give us your first initial reactions of everything that went down in that episode.
It sucked. I just knew I was in a horrible situation the whole time, and it was
So right off the
not
bat,
much I
though,
could do.
right off the bat, like before the challenge happens, right?
Mhm.
You guys won. You should be living in like, I don't know, like some fantasy land of happiness right now. But before the challenge even happened, it felt like you already knew you were in trouble.
I did, and I think part of it is I didn't necessarily realize everyone was like messaging on like Facebook and stuff like that. I'd never really done any mini or anything like that. So the only person who actually was the first one to reach out to me was ironically Nick.
Yep.
And so I wasn't talking to anyone. And then what happened is, so while the other tribe was doing their first tribal, we had, that's when we were allowed to use the breakout rooms. And so someone says, hey, you guys can use the breakout rooms, and everyone's just like, no, let's all just stay here. And it just
so
like
they're all sitting there face to face and chatting privately in Messenger while you're just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, kind of, I guess, slow
man.
picking up on all that. So it just, from right then, I knew I was in a lot of trouble.
Could you see people's heads down though and know that they're messaging with each other? Because the biggest thing on Zoom is when someone's talking to someone, because they'll lift their head up and then someone else will put their head down.
So you could kind of see some of that. I mean, there was definitely some people that were looking on their phones and whatnot, and it's definitely something I should have picked up sooner. Like, that's my bad, but is what it is at this point.
Man, so one of the questions I had was, there's a few moments in this episode. I mentioned one a second ago there about Nick pretty much just giving everything away to Karen accidentally. There was another moment where I think it was you and Karen were in a room. I think it was you and Karen, and she says something like, I'm not really talking to anybody. I mean, Nick wrote me, but that's about it at the beginning of the game. And you said, yeah, I think he did that to everybody because he wrote me too, or something like that. I forget who said it first, but you kind of outed that Nick was just writing everybody and playing this big social game, but that didn't seem to catch on at all. It's kind of like it was mentioned and that kind of died off there. What was it that he wrote you at the beginning of the game like that? Like what was he trying to get to right off the bat?
I mean, it was just pretty simple. It was just kind of like, hey, like he's introducing himself. He asked to add me on Facebook, and then it was just like, yeah, you seem pretty cool. And it was just nothing too much to it, but just kind of a little bit of an opening conversation.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty smooth, I suppose. I can't say I haven't done the same thing. Just to hey, welcome to the game. We got picked. Congrats. Something generic like that, and then just try to get it going. But yeah, if you're not communicating back and forth, then yeah, you're kind of out of the loop, because not only are you not in the know, but then everybody else is thinking you're not talking to them. You must be talking to somebody else. Right.
Yeah. It was played really horribly on my part from the first part of that. I don't know if it was just naive, wasn't thinking, whatever it was, but it was not great.
And did you want to sit out the challenge there? Because no, you didn't. Because the way that I was watching it there a couple times, it almost looked like when people were saying, let's go to the wheel, it almost looked like you wanted to be like, I'll sit out, but were you going to say like, don't put me on the wheel? Like I want to play.
Well, so everyone was kind of like iffy on the puzzle. And that was the one, like I said, I would do the pencils, but I felt really confident in the puzzles. That's where it was more of like, hey, that's what I would want to do in this situation.
Man, the way you just delivered that answer would have been like perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like I feel good with the pencils, but I'm really confident on the puzzle. But on the show, you're like, well, I wouldn't want to say I do good, but I think I might have had a chance.
Well, I think also part of it was we didn't exactly know what the puzzle was.
Oh, fair enough.
And then as soon as it became that it was kind of an unscramble, I immediately would have said something then. But if it was, I don't know, like the flame type puzzle, no, I'm pretty bad at that type of stuff. So I wouldn't want to be so confident in that.
So they knew going into the challenge for the puzzle, I was like, you'll know the exact amount of words and however many letters are supposed to be in those words.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a lot of information.
Yeah. So if it was Dan, it would be 3 random letters for that first word. So it would be like FJP. And then the next word, if it's 6 letters, it's a random 6 letters from the phrase.
Wow. Okay.
Because we wanted to make it as easy as possible.
Well, that could take an hour to do if you didn't give any tips, and you can't do that on a mini. So that makes sense.
There was no dummy letters. You got exactly like
no dummy letters intentionally.
Yes. Yes.
To be fair though, Dan, because his tribe was taking so long, Dan would have actually had the answer in 2 seconds.
Yeah, so I knew we were behind right. They were almost done before I think we even Jeremy even started getting the first couple. And then obviously the card toss was an absolute debacle. So the whole time I went through and I'm just writing down in that type of puzzle, on the show, what is every different combination of words that they've used, and what it ended up being, it was reward with all the fixins. That was second on my.
Yeah.
He didn't have the list of letters or anything.
Yeah.
He didn't know what the puzzle or the scramble was, but he was just writing down information.
And you didn't use any of that to fight for yourself. Like that would have been beautiful to see you in tribal or something. Be like, listen, guys, I'm a value. I hold I had this before I even had the letters that was on my list of sentences.
No, I think
with me
more
here.
of what it was is at tribal, I knew I was done. I think I would have been more shocked than Nick if I actually stayed and he was voted out.
I think he had a great tribal. I'm not coming off here trying to say that I think you did poorly in any way. I think you were screwed, and just because there was already an alliance that was blatantly obvious, and that's one of my questions was when you're watching the episode, Nick is crazy sloppy with giving away who he's working with. And you kind of flubbed up a little bit where you're like, 2 people told me, and then Jeremy would know, well, I didn't tell you, so obviously Corey and Karen did, but
Karen was the only one that told me. I just sound like it was more than.
But I mean, when you're there, was it as obvious that Nick was just it was Nick, Austin, and Jeremy were running the show? Did you know that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because especially one of the things is after I gave my first tribal, he's like, oh, he accused me of maybe I'm just being too paranoid. And I didn't kind of say it there, but what made it really obvious is when we're in the breakout rooms, I actually did at some point want to try to talk to Nick, but what happened is every time we ended up being in the same one, he would ask someone else who wasn't me, pretty much everyone else's, hey, let's go talk in this room. And it's just all right, if I'm the only person you're not asking, that's a pretty dead giveaway.
And did Jeremy shadow you? Did Jeremy kind of follow you around? Because he seemed to be in a couple rooms that you were in. I didn't know if he was doing that intentionally to keep an eye on what you were doing, or
if he may have. He was around a lot, but I don't know if that's what he was doing or not.
Gotcha. Because I saw for a blip you were with Karen, and no, sorry, were you? Yeah, you were with Karen.
There was
what happened in the beginning was there was a little bit, I guess, maybe miscommunication between the tribe of where they were going. So Dan and Karen jumped to a breakout room. The other guys just kind of stayed in the main room and talked. And so that's how it broke.
Convenient. Hey?
Yeah.
Where they are, though. They still know that what room people are in. You can see on there where people are sitting.
Yeah, it's just such a classic move when there's an alliance that when everyone starts moving, you just sit there. And it's like, okay, we're all here together now. Like they all left. Let's talk for 30 seconds and then pretend we didn't know how to get to the room. Like,
well, and that was at the end of that conversation, Karen and I said like, hey, like we should go back because apparently no one's actually coming here. But
yeah,
I mean, at that point, we probably already gave them like close to a minute. So
well,
it's just too much time.
That was one of my questions was like when you're watching, it's obvious that Nick and Jeremy are really close. Well, at least aligned. I can say aligned. I can't say really close. And I feel like Austin, like I feel like maybe Jeremy has Austin as like a maybe like I don't know I don't know if he's like pulling him along or knows he can use his vote or what. But Austin, I feel like is with that 3 clearly, but is much more malleable. You know what I mean? And my question was, did you ever have a chance to get Corey and Karen in a room, just the 3 of you at all, and then kind of talk about that option, or did time go by too quickly?
I can't remember if it was just the 3 of us. I know at some point it was the 3 of us plus like Jeremy was also there.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't remember a time where it just would have been me, like Corey and Karen.
Yeah.
And so that never really, I don't know, I guess never really had the opportunity.
Yeah, because Corey wasn't being shy. Like everybody there knows he wants to work with Karen, which is horrible in a way because now him and Karen are a duo, even if Karen doesn't want that. Right. Like Karen might I didn't see Karen mention Corey much, other than like, you know, like kind of lighthearted stuff. But Corey's pretty much telling people, let's not vote Karen out because she's awesome. And Austin's like, yeah, she's awesome. And you don't want to go. And obviously you would have worked with Karen and Corey. I just feel like, man, you have the 2 brains of that were pulling all the strings at that point in Jeremy and Nick, and they would have been at your disposal if you just could have got that trio together, you and Corey and Karen. But woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? I mean, it's easy to look back
and then Karen also kind of told me at one point, because, you know, first she's like, hey, like, I don't want to vote for you. Like, let's kind of see what we can do. But then it pretty much got to the point where it was just like, hey, I essentially have to vote for you unless you can convince both Corey and Jeremy to not do it. And at that point, I was like, all right, it's done.
You don't have enough time. But my other question is, do you think you would have done better if you were on the other tribe?
Yeah, I do. I mean, they probably made the right move because like, had we won that challenge and if the merge was coming up, I was 100% gone. Like there was no chance I was sticking with them. So I don't know. I think I would have, just simply because you had kind of that, you know, Nick, Jeremy, and Austin trio, and then it was just Corey and Karen. And so like I was dead man walking.
But it also feels like now Jeremy's like right in the middle of both Nick and Austin and Corey and Karen. Both Corey and Karen want to pull Jeremy to their side, but also Nick and Austin want Jeremy as well. So
yeah,
Jeremy's, even though he didn't do well and on the pencils, I think he's sitting real pretty.
I mean, he definitely is, but in a game like this, I don't know, like we all play differently. And I feel like Corey, I think, is kind of getting blinded by the bright light that is the charisma of Nick and the confidence of Jeremy and, you know, just the blind loyalty of Austin. I think that all just looks so good, but knowing that he is saying I'm aligned with Karen, and they were just 2 seconds ago talking about Dan or Karen.
Yeah.
You're part of that group now, right? As Corey. And if there's ever like a double tribal, right? Like let's say in the next challenge was a like bang bang, right? Something crazy happens or something weird in these minis, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's lumped with Karen, and that's scary, right? At this point, because Karen was an option.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna get to some questions that some other people had from the Facebook group. Denny wants to know, Dan, instead of going after Nick because of how personable he is, do you think you could have used that to your advantage to get in tighter with him? I think it was too early to go for a social threat, especially when social people usually have ins with others. If you could have worked an in with him, you might have been able to shift the attention off of you and onto Corey or Karen. Did that ever cross your mind for targeting either of them?
By the time we were getting out to, you know, like we were scrambling, it just wasn't an option, especially because Nick wasn't talking to me at all. So, I mean, if he won't talk to me, then it's not even an option that I could even, you know, really go after.
So Alex kind of says the same thing. There was speculation that Karen could have been on the chopping block, but Corey stopped that in its tracks. If you were aware of that, why not pitch to Nick and Austin that Corey needs to be the one to go?
So like as soon as we did finish the challenge, I guess the reason why it never really occurred or, didn't think that that's the way I should go is we finish it and, Corey obviously, didn't do great on that card challenge. And immediately all everyone says is, oh, it's not Corey's fault. Like, he tried, he's the one who volunteered, he did this and that. And so then it's kind of hard to then be like, nah, fuck that. Like, that's not what I want to do. Like, that's not what everyone else wants to. So
yeah.
And that's why like going after Corey never really seemed like an option, especially because at that point, Karen was the only one who was talking to me. And she said, hey, like she told me she wanted to work with Corey. So that was kind of the only option that, I really had to pursue.
She was set in stone with wanting to work with him no matter what.
From what our conversations that we had, that's how it came across to me, at least early on anyway.
And then I've talked to Karen post game, and she was worried that entire tribal council when you were saying, yeah, people are telling me my name has been brought up, blah, 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 that you're just going to be like, Karen told me your plans. So if you go back, you can probably see her like, okay, please don't say anything. Please don't say anything.
And that's probably what I should have done. But I mean, at that point, like tribal, I knew I was done. And so I was like, all right, we're just at least going to make a little bit of a spectacle out of it. The only other thing that I wish I would have done, and I still don't think it would have worked, but at that point going out, was I thought about lying and saying that there was an idol out there and saying, if they asked like, well, that's not true or whatever, and saying, well, you didn't pay attention to the opening words. Like there was a clue there, knowing I was still going to get a few of the votes, but then just hoping that at least like 1 or 2 votes would have went Karen or somewhere else just to cause chaos on the way out and be like, yeah, close tribe, huh?
That's awesome.
Because people get scared. People get very scared, especially in a mini situation. And I think you could have maybe gotten some people to jump ship there.
All you needed was Corey and Karen to be on board, right? If you have 3 votes going to someone and 1 of their votes goes anywhere else, you're right.
Yeah. So it's probably something I should have played, but I think at that point, like, I don't know, when I get like ranting and going, a little bit of thought just goes. And I think at that point I was just like, all right, I just got on a roll and was just running with it.
Yeah.
Something I did like was, and like I said, I don't know anything about the season, so I could just sound like a dork right now because I don't know. But if, sometimes when there's minis like this, or even the long games, there's like a battle back or whatever you want to call it, like some sort of challenge with people who are, the first evicted.
A redemption island of sorts.
Sure, right? Redemption Island or something, whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. Survivor related things. There's a chance that people might come back. And at this point in the game, as a viewer, I don't know if that's true or not, but when you left, you said after attacking Nick, you were like, listen, man, Nick, you're a good guy, nothing personal. I just, I had to try to save myself. It's all good. Like something like that, right? Trying to kind of mend the fence there a little bit before kind of GTFO. And I thought that was really smart, because if that was ever the case where you had a chance to come back and Nick was still around, if you left after just calling him out, easiest vote ever for him, right? Like guy hates me, get him out again, right? But yeah, so I like that. I like seeing that.
Well, and it was also like at that point, like I hadn't spoken to Nick. I mean, you never know, how if people are emotional or take things too personally. And I mean, talking to him a little bit more now, I don't think he would have taken it that way, but I just didn't want him to think that I was attacking him just because, like, I don't know, I'm a hateful person or something like that. It was just, I literally, like, I decided, I was like, all right, it's either Austin or Nick who hadn't spoken to me, so I'm going after one of them, and Nick just happened to be who I picked.
Yep.
Yeah. And in a mini, like, that's the thing, if this was a long game, then kind of like what Denny said, cozying up to the people who might have a little bit of sway makes a lot of sense, because they'll have sway for a long time. And they'll also be a target in front of you and stuff like that. But in a mini, if you were able to kind of throw all those games upside down that quick, if somehow you were able to get Nick out that quick, then you and whatever core you had would have been getting requests from all of his previous allies, like, don't vote me out. Like, the whole tables would have been upside down right off the bat. And so I don't know. I think I would have done the same thing in your shoes, and I probably would have got my ass kicked too. But it's all you could do, right? Like
We were going full Butch style. We were burning down the juggle.
That's it. That's it. Scorched earth. Yeah.
All right. So McKenna, Robbie, do you guys have any other questions for Dan? Or Dan, do you have any final words to talk about did not cover?
I'm good.
I mean, I don't think there's really anything.
Yeah.
I'm
good.
Well, Dan, thanks so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I'm happy we were able to get some intel on your game. I hope to see you in another one because I think you could do very well. And I definitely can tell you have game. It's just you got unlucky with the group you ended up with.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And he turned to the dark side, everyone. He is on our production team for season 2. So
hey, nice.
He's joining us for production, and it's going to be great. I will say for everyone else, next episode is dropping tomorrow, Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. We will also be talking to the third boot sometime on Tuesday evening, and we will drop that link for you guys. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube page and keep inviting your friends to the group. It's a lot of fun. If they ever want in on any of these games, they need to be part of the Facebook group.
All right. And we always have a link in the description to the group. So anybody who's just finding these, please click the link to join the Facebook group so you can play and experience the madness. All right. Bye, guys.